So there'll be lots of meetings where you get in a meeting room on a Teams call and 80% of the conversation is held by 20% of the people. And that's what we call a lean back meeting. We changed that.
Let's start with your story.
Got to a point where I couldn't progress unless my boss left. There was a career ladder, but it got so specific that I was in dead man's shoes. And unless they left, I couldn't progress any further.
That has been quite a journey, right? I can imagine how many people have found themselves in the same shoes. And in most cases, people just, okay, let's wait it out.
That transition between the police and the NHS happened just as my daughter was being born. There was a different pressure to say, look, it's things are going to get expensive soon. Even when I was made redundant and sort of didn't have a job for a while, there was sort of a door that I knew that I could go into contracting. So there were always those opportunities and openings and that you can look for.
With technology, with AI and all these tools coming in, they're helping, but I also feel a lot more people are not engaging their mind more as they used to, because all of a sudden AI does all the writing for you and all that stuff. Do you see this method being a way out for more people?
For me, I learn better when something is fun and joyful, like say, sitting in a room with lots and lots of PowerPoints and sort of you zone out.
Welcome once again to the GrowthPlug Podcast, where you learn to live by design and not by default. We have an amazing guest on the show who will be taking us through his own journey, and he'll be sharing quite a lot around how people can communicate things. And I know you will truly enjoy this episode. Welcome, Robin. Nice to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. And how are you doing today?
Yeah, so a good day, I think. Excitement's been building about talking to you today.
Same here. I've been looking forward to this conversation. First of all, I like your shirt. I like the logo there.
Thank you.
So what let's start with what inspired that.
So one of the things I'm doing more and more at the moment is using Lego within sort of the work that I do within facilitation and providing sort of training. And so obviously I needed something that sort of represented that. And there are sort of lots of strings to my bow that obviously I do sort of some coaching as well. And yeah, so I'm the LSP coach, and I'm sure we'll get into some of that.
Yes.
Very shortly.
Indeed. Okay, so for those who don't know you fully and probably don't even know what LSP means, so maybe this is a good point to ask the question, Robin, who are you? What do you do? And how do you help people?
So I do lots of things. And I suppose the main thing I do at the moment is Agile Coaching and Scrum Master, and working with organizations that are looking to sort of adopt or continuously improve their Agile way of working. So I can go in and help them with that, provide some guidance, provide some mentoring, and that led me into sort of more of a coaching stance. So I've sort of done sort of my coaching training, so I can provide sort of professional coaching as well as that sort of mentoring side. And along the way, there are lots of different tools and techniques that you can use within facilitation of conversations. And one of those is Lego Serious Play. And it's a wonderful way of ensuring that everybody's involved within a conversation. So there'll be lots of meetings, I'm sure your listeners and watchers are aware of, where you get in a meeting room on a Teams call and sort of 80% of the conversation is held by 20% of the people. And that's what we call a lean back meeting. Everybody else sort of leans back and lets the conversation happen around them. But within Lego Serious Play, we change that. We call it a lean in meeting. So we get everybody participating and everybody sharing their thoughts and feelings on a situation. So we would ask a powerful question, which might be about what great teamwork looks like or what success looks like. And everybody would then build a model in order to represent the answer to that question. Once everybody's built, everyone would then share the story and the metaphor within their model. And you'd go around the room and you're able to hear all those different stories. So if we're looking at what great teamwork looks like, everybody may think of something different. Might be some things the same, but there'll be lots of differences as well. And you're able to then have a conversation around, well, how do we accommodate all of these differences as to what great teamwork might be? And we might go into build some more models or a shared model to sort of say, right, how do we bring in everybody's ideas? Some things might get left behind, and you can have a conversation about why those things have been left behind and what you can do. But it's a great way of making sure that everybody's involved in that conversation and action taking and decision making.
And that is very inclusive. Like you said, the laid back. I think I've been guilty of being laid back in a couple of meetings where you're like, should I even be here? What is my contribution here? And I'm sure a lot of us get that feeling as well in some meetings. You mentioned something. One of the things that model does is helping people tell stories, at least how they understand and perceive things. So let's start with your story. How did you get to this point? Yeah.
So I have been on a journey. It's definitely that. So my degree is in criminology and social policy, so very, very different from what I do now. So I was lucky enough, my first roles were as a civilian in the police force, and I ended up as a crime analyst, so I got to work on some sort of large-scale investigations, and the job I did was really interesting, really enjoyed it. It was sort of making a difference, and that was great. But I got to a point where I couldn't progress unless my boss left. There wasn't there was a career ladder, but it got so specific that I was in dead man's shoes, and like unless they left, I couldn't progress any further. I got to the top of my pay scale, and it's like, okay, well, I need to do something else. And I moved sideways then into the NHS, and I was analysing healthcare data instead of crime data. And I was working on some sort of publications within the NHS. And one of the publications, there was a project to bring the processing of the data in-house rather than it being done by a third party. And I got to be the product owner on that project. And it opened my eyes to a completely new way of working, and to Agile and to Scrum. And I did that sort of for 18 months. And it's like, well, I now really enjoy this new thing. Using the skills that I got, the analytical skills from when I was sort of a crime analyst, and applying them in a slightly different way. And I don't want to go back. I want to sort of carry on doing this thing. But there wasn't a product owner job. I said, okay, well, another little sideways move into Scrum Mastery. And so sort of still working within those Agile teams, but doing more of that sort of facilitation and supporting the team and removing impediments. And that sort of carried on with a couple more organisations before being sort of made redundant. And sort of then I sort of started sort of my own business where I was sort of providing those services as a contractor. And that allowed me to explore additional tools and techniques that were a bit more restrictive within an organisation that wasn't necessarily going to pay for lots and lots of training for me. And that's sort of what led me into how can I use Lego. I saw some courses that involved Lego as part of them. And so it sort of got me thinking, well, how can I incorporate that into the day-to-day things that I do? And so I was slowly but surely able to pull in little bits. By the time sort of COVID came around, I then sort of like, okay, I need to get certified in Lego Serious Play. So I sort of did my training for that sort of online during COVID. And that sort of then sort of been able to do that more and sort of go to sort of meetup groups and sort of then different workshops, been to conferences and sort of delivered workshops there. Recently this year I was able to become a trainer, so I can now certify others in the methodology, which is great fun to be able to share that knowledge and get more people using Lego Serious Play as a facilitation tool.
That has been quite a journey, right?
Yeah.
Just from what you said, and I can imagine how many people found themselves or have found themselves in the same shoes where, hey, it's clear that someone has to leave for you to progress, right? And in most cases, people just, okay, let's wait it out. What else can I do? There's nothing much to do. So for you, what would you say really helped you make that decision? Because I guess it was scary at the time where you just said you had to leave, right? Or did you have a job before leaving, or you left it?
So I had a job to go to. So it wasn't that I was under lots of pressure that I didn't have a job. I suppose there's a different kind of pressure. So that transition between the police and the NHS happened just as my daughter was being born. There was that sort of financial pressure in a way to be able to know that I could continue to progress, know there needs to be a decision to be made and make sure that it's the right thing to do. And in a way, I've been really lucky that actually it opened a door. And so going in and was doing my analytical work and very, very similar to work in the police. But then there was that door that moved me into that agile way of working. And then even sort of when I was made redundant and sort of didn't have a job for a while, there was sort of a door that I knew that I could go into contracting. So there were always those opportunities and openings and that you can look for.
You said you moved to NHS. The question is, some of the skills you picked up during your time, like working before you went into the NHS, and did all of that play a role in you then moving finally to being an instructor, like a facilitator?
I think so. I think particularly analytical skills, it's all data. So in a way, it doesn't matter too much what that data is you're looking to pick out things that are either similar or dissimilar. So that I think really helped me when I moved sideways, because I didn't really know anything about sort of the procedures and things that were taking place. But I could look at the data and look for anomalies and similarities and sort of pick those things out and ask questions of others that might be more knowledgeable in those areas to find, right, does this actually mean anything? Should we investigate this further, and do we need to drill down to the next level of data and find out sort of exactly what's going on? So there are definitely those items there. And even when I moved into that product ownership, that provided me with those same skills that I needed to ask questions and find out what are the requirements that we really need to go for and what things need to be prioritized over others and why, and then be able to share that story. And I suppose that's when storytelling really took off me, because we wrote user stories in order to get work delivered. So I had to tell the story of a user and what they wanted and why they wanted and how we knew that we'd delivered that for that user. So yeah, storytelling really started for me at that point, and it's obviously continued on since then.
Yeah. And with the Lego series and the way you currently use it, I think one of the things I love most about it is people actually creating their own story using things that people can actually see and relate with. Because and I think more and more as we move into an AI world where AI does a lot of the analytics and all that stuff, we will need people who can tell more stories and communicate all those technicalities in a human-like manner. I know machines can try to explain, but I think it's always just different when it's someone, a human being, explaining that to you as well. So from a learning perspective, because the Lego, and now going deep into that, because that's one of the things I think people will find valuable from this particular episode, how people can learn faster. With technology, with AI and all these tools coming in, they are helping. But I also feel a lot more people are not engaging their mind more as they used to, because all of a sudden AI does all the writing for you and all that stuff. Do you see it as a way that can help people sharpen their understanding, even as we transition into this highly AI world?
Absolutely. So if I give you a bit of an analogy, so obviously we're talking and having a conversation, but you put us into sort of a meeting, and if it is that sort of 10 people in a room and you've got a couple of people that are having the conversation, is everybody else really listening? Are they actively listening to the conversation, or are they just there? Are they passively listening? And what Lego Serious Play does, because everybody builds and everybody has to share their story, it focuses everybody in to listen when those stories are told, to see where there are similarities, where there are sort of differences, and it visualizes everything. So they say, for example, a picture paints 1,000 words, but all you've got is a static picture. And okay, you can still interpret that in different ways. Different people will look at it differently. But if you build a Lego model, you're not just looking at a flat picture. You've got a 3-dimensional creation that you can stand up and you can walk around it and you can look from above it and you can discuss individual points of that, and you can point at specific bricks and see how it tells that story. And it's great that when you start to do that, people see something different. So there was a group that I was working with that they built their individual models as to what their vision was, and they put it together in a shared model. I said, okay, well now get up and walk around the table and look at it from somewhere else. And they then noticed there was this big flat wall that was almost like in the dark, and it's sort of like that's not what we want and that's not what we mean. So they're able to then go in because they've visualized it. And so I think rather than a picture telling 1,000 words, you've got a Lego model that could tell 100,000 words and all the stories that go with it, because you're able to get up and move around it and have multiple conversations and delve into it, because you've absolutely visualized what the issues are, what the problems are, what your vision is, and how you can then achieve that.
And can this same method, now we've been talking about this from a work perspective, but can individuals actually use the Lego method in their personal life? Have you seen that happen?
There are Lego Serious Play facilitators that people will specialize in all sorts of things. Yep. And I know somebody that sort of uses it for counseling. Okay. Because again, if you think when people are going for counseling or therapy and couples counseling, whatever that may be, there's some conflict there. So again, you can then build a model that represents that conflict and the story of conflict, and then how you might want to then change that over time. and you're able to tell the story. And the great thing about a model is it creates some disassociation with what it is that you're talking about. So a very complex or difficult situation, you're not then talking about yourself from in here, which could be really, really difficult depending upon the environment that you're in. But once you've built the model, you're talking about the model. And so it's the model that you're able to then go that bit deeper. And that can tell something completely different. And you might share something that you wouldn't normally have shared had you been asked the question. Sort of like if you ask the question, how are you sort of feeling today? Yeah, you might just sort of give the answer, I'm feeling good, excited about the session. If you build a model about how you're feeling today, that can have multiple elements within it. And you're able to then sort of delve into it, and you could talk about the colours that might be used. And colour, there's a whole raft of things about the psychology of colour and what different colours represent. And they could be positive and negative. So red, it could absolutely be positive, and it could talk about love and warmth and sort of strength and passion. But red is also sort of used as a negative. Obviously, you've got that aggression and danger. If you think of sort of stop signs and warning signs, they're all red. And so how people use colour within their models can show so many different things. Sort of blue could mean sort of efficiency and intelligence, but it could also be coldness and sort of depression. And sort of you've got yellow, that you've got sunlight and creativity, but it could also be sort of cowardice. Or green, you could talk about the environment and peace, but you've also got envy and corruption in there. So there's so many facets that you can start to look at when people build their models. And that's just colour before you then get into the type of bricks that they use and where they place themselves in those models and which direction things are facing and the proximity of different parts of models and how things might be connected. Are things stable? Are they firm? Are they a bit wobbly? And then you can sort of start to go into lots of different areas. So absolutely, people could use this at home as a tool to look at how they're feeling or dealing with conflict, but it applies in an office setting as well.
I like the fact that you just went deep into what the colors mean, the shape and
Yeah.
everything. And I'm here sitting like, wow, you get all that information from Lego. And it's just remarkable how using such a technique and building something that represents how you're feeling at a particular time, I think that gives you insight. This is a model of what is in my mind, in my head right now, and I can try to analyze it and then see what am I not thinking about? And I think that's just so profound. So let's talk about this practice. I know the first time we connected, we had a conversation around learning generally and the need for structured learning to do some things we do. Online right now, we have a lot of content out there that tells people different stuff, how to do things, usually 30 seconds videos, the short clips, which people really enjoy because most people would rather take that than sit down to actually listen. From your work, both in the corporate and with individuals, right? How can they actually understand what they are consuming? That is the question, because people are consuming more, but I feel they're not understanding as much as they should be understanding.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the ways I perceive is having a more structured form of knowledge, which we've traditionally always had. But now there are conversations around structured knowledge or structured schooling, and all of that might not be necessary certifications. But I would like to know your thoughts around this. First, from a perspective of what you do from the Lego series, and then your work as a coach. Because people do come to me as I coach people, like they struggle to still understand things. In fact, it's getting worse. They struggle to understand it to the point where they didn't take action. So I'd like to know your thoughts. How can people really understand, not just consume?
So it's really difficult. Like when I think back when I was growing up, sort of there wasn't the internet to go and search for stuff. There wasn't Google. You couldn't go and look at YouTube videos or TikTok videos to find out how to do something. And it's great that you can do that. It's like, okay, my Hoover's blocked and I need to work out how to take it apart to clean all the bits to make it work again. And YouTube is absolutely great for that. It's that little something that's sort of simple that you can actually apply and do yourself. If I think back to how it was when I was sort of maybe sort of 17, 18 and got my first sort of cars, when sort of something went wrong or wanted to sort of change a light bulb, it's like I went and got my Haynes manual. Everybody had a Haynes manual for their car. And it told you how to do things, and everything was sort of graded like this is easy or this is sort of expert. And over time, I did sort of little bits and sort of bulbs and air filters and spark plugs, yeah, they're the easy bits. Sort of you got a bit more complex with sort of oil filters that are a bit further in, and sort of alternators and brake pads and things like that. But there was step-by-step instructions. I was able to sort of go through and follow those to do it. But I wouldn't call myself a mechanic. There was enough information for me to be able to do that. And things like Lego Serious Play or Facilitation, where you're trying to use a tool or a method to do that. Absolutely. Lego Serious Play is a free-to-use thing. The Lego group released the methodology in an open source guide. You can go to their website, you can download it. It tells you all the steps to do it. And absolutely anybody could go and facilitate a session. But for me, if you wanted to go and do this in a more professional setting, I couldn't rock up and get a mechanic's job, say, I've changed a few light bulbs because I've followed the step-by-step instructions. You need to show some credibility, and you need to show your depth of understanding, and you need to sort of have confidence in the continued development to go through that process to become a mechanic. And I think that's the same when it comes to facilitation or Scrum Mastery. The Scrum Guide is an open free source thing, and you could read what it is to be a product owner and a Scrum Master. But if you're going to employ someone to do that role, you're going to look for that level of certification, that level of professionalism, that level of credibility to know that they know what they're doing. And I think that's sort of, it works across the board, and that's what courses and certificates give you. Depth of understanding, credibility, and something that you can take and prove to others that you know what you're talking about. Absolutely. With Lego Serious Play, anybody can do it. You just need a few Lego bricks and follow the process. But if you're wanting to sort of take it that step further, becoming a certified facilitator is the way to go.
Okay, good. For me, I also, just to add to that, you mentioned credibility, right, as one of the reasons for certifications. And I think for some people might have like ideas like, hey, I don't need certificates. So the question is, how do you prove your credibility? Do you have other methods to prove that, right? And more as we progress on our journey, building a personal brand, for example, is where one place you can like consistently share. This is what I do. This is how I go about it. And I think it also helps build that whole credibility for you to then be seen as this person is quite competent enough to be able to carry out this activity. Okay, now let's move a bit now to executive coaching as well. You've worked with quite a number of people and senior executives at that level. First of all, do they enjoy this Lego play? Do you use it for them? Let me start with that one.
Absolutely. Like, it is for everyone. The great thing is it gets rid of the hierarchy in the room because everybody has to build and everybody has to share. It's not that highest paid person's opinion that everybody then has to follow. So it's great for leveling the playing field. You do get some people that say, like, Lego, really? It's sort of like, isn't that a child's toy? And they hear Lego and play and they forget the serious bit. And actually, because it is structured and because sort of we want to get serious results, the Lego bit is 5 minutes of building. The serious bit is the conversation that takes place and the actions and the reflection that take place to actually move you forward from where you were and help with that visual understanding of the problem and the potential solutions. So absolutely, sort of executives sort of come on this, and it is used in boardrooms sort of across the globe to actually sort of help deal with sort of different situations and scenarios. So it is for everyone. It's not just, absolutely, we can build an away day and a workshop around it so that there's learning, but it absolutely applies at that sort of strategic level as well.
Do you feel like, I know as people advance in their career age as well, people start losing the need for play? Do you think this is a good way to just bring in a bit of play? Because play is quite important for even our relaxation, our mental health, our families and everything, right? Do you think this is a good way to introduce that play into their life?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I learn better when something is fun and joyful, like say, sitting in a room with lots and lots of PowerPoints and sort of you zone out. And because you're involved in the conversation all the time within a Lego Serious Play session, it keeps you there and motivated. Now, you need to watch the room with it as well to make sure that it's not too deep and too difficult. So you need to make sure there are regular breaks and things. But it absolutely brings that playfulness back and it gets you somewhere a bit faster because you're having lots more conversations than you might normally in a more traditional meeting or workshop. But I believe play is one of the best ways of actually getting the most out of any session, because if people are enjoying themselves, for me, they're more productive. And so we're going to get more value out of everyone.
Yeah. Just remembering, David Beckham is a huge fan of Legos, by the
It
way.
is, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos. In fact, once I saw his wife making this video very late in the night. He was just sitting by himself building this Lego stuff, and he always talks about how he helps.
Yeah, it's a great mindfulness tool as well. I think obviously the Lionesses, sort of the England women's football team, they were building Lego during the European Championships recently.
Interesting.
So it's used sort of for loads of different purposes. And like I say, there are different activities that you can do from a coaching stance, where you just sort of, again, get people to hold some bricks and feel it in their hand. Sort of depending upon the brick you've got, there are some sort of sharp corners. You've got the studs that give some different texture, and you can sort of then start to think sort of differently, because you're sort of almost not meditating exactly, but your focus becomes on the brick and what you've got in your hands, and it's moving you away from sort of what else is going on. So they're absolutely tools and techniques that you can use. Some might not be pure Lego serious play, but you're using Lego as the tool to do those different activities and get you into that better state.
And have you experienced any, well, I say, pushback from maybe an organization you tried to use this method before? Have you experienced such?
Most open. So
Okay.
one of the things that I find, that if people are pushing back, the best way for them to stop pushing back is to experience it. So just getting somebody with some Lego in their hands and sort of getting them to build something, build a tower to represent how they're feeling at that point, and then you're able to ask those sort of questions, those coaching questions around it. They start to have those aha moments and see how powerful it is. Almost having that sort of social proof, or a colleague that's been through it before, getting them to say that this was sort of really good and powerful. And sort of like one of the most sort of powerful ones, I was had a coaching session, and we were doing a constellations exercise, and sort of my client, they were going through and they were building their team and their system that they were working in. And I was just able to ask one question, say, well, why is that person facing away from everybody else? And it was like, I didn't realise that they were facing away. Like, I need to turn them around, and that team needs to move here, and this team moves to it. And they then spent sort of the next sort of 5-10 minutes then moving everybody around, and then just talking for the next half hour as to how things need to change. I need to take this to the team, and I need to show them this. And it was such a powerful thing that the session was really valuable to them, because they visualised what the problem was without even knowing that's what the problem was. And they were then able to take that away and do something with it. And I didn't have to ask much else during that question, because they were able to then sort of visualise it and see, right, this is where we need to go to change it. And there are so many different activities that you can do using Lego that act in that way, that may not be necessarily building a big tower or a big model, because we're never looking for literal builds. No one's ever going to go out and build a car. But understanding what their processes are and their practices and how things fit together and the network they're in and the system and how everybody talks to each other, that's the thing we're looking to build more of and understand, and how can we make things better.
Yeah, no, quite impressive. When I coach people, sometimes some of the challenges people have is like, okay, I know this is the direction I want to go in life, but I'm scared, right? And maybe let me play the scenario to you, and then maybe you come up with a Lego creation for us to help people really think. I've seen things around self-doubt. I know I want to go here. I'm scared. I know I want to go to that next job, but I don't feel I'm competent enough. And I guess you've seen this one way or the other in your practice, some of the challenges people face. So how can they overcome that? Maybe starting with building this model, but what are some things you feel people can do that can help them go outside of their head? Because sometimes they're just in their head, everything is there. But using your practice, your experience, because this is also the core of why we have this conversation. So people who are struggling, people who want to change the course of their lives, but they feel like they have no option. What can they do using this practice? Is there something is there a different perspective they should think around this?
So they could definitely build a model.
Okay.
If they've got that vision for the future, you can almost sort of get sort of some Lego bricks or base plates that they can sort of say, right, put themselves at one end, and at the other end, build the model and the vision of where they want to be, whether that's in 6 months, a year, 5 years, whatever that might be. And then on that journey across those base plates, what are the things that and challenges that they might need to overcome. And again, this is where the metaphor is great, because it doesn't have to be an actual challenge. You could take a Lego shark or a crocodile, you could build a broken bridge, whatever it is that represents those challenges for you. And you might want to post it in pen to note those things down as well. And so, right, okay, if these are the challenges that I've got to do, what is it that I need to do to overcome that challenge? And is it I need to sort of learn something new and do some personal development? Is it that I need to get some mentoring in a certain area? Do I need to get some more experience? And whatever it is, you can then sort of start saying, well, once you know what those things are, how do I then overcome it? So, well, how do I get that experience? Or how do I reach out to a mentor? Or how do I reach out to a coach? And who can I find to help me deal with all of those challenges? And suddenly you've got that pathway that actually isn't as fearful or isn't as bad as you first thought it is. And when people have these thoughts that actually I'm blocked and I've got this fear and I'm never going to overcome this, it's never really as bad as you think. And so there's sort of some great fear setting exercises that you can do that don't necessarily involve Lego. It could just be a pen and paper and saying, right, sort of, what's my fear? What's the worst that could happen? And if it was to happen, what would be the outcome? And what could I do to try and prevent it? And sort of going through sort of things like that, saying, well, how do I prevent some of these things? You might not be able to eliminate it entirely. How do I minimize the impact of that thing? And then you're able to just sort of start through those steps to then start to eliminate the fears or your challenges and help you move forward.
Good. Thanks for sharing that. Sometimes people just feel really handicapped, and what you said, maybe even using a paper and a pen, right? But visualize where do I want to be? What will it take to be there? What are the barriers? Can I eliminate or reduce them at least for me to be able to get to that point? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, one great thing if you build a model that does this, that you can go back and reflect on it over time as well, and you can change it and then sort of see how you've been able to do it. So if you are on that journey over 6 months or a year, you're able to move your sort of figure down that path, and then you're able to see the challenges that you've overcome. And that can be a great thing as well, because sometimes we forget where we've gone. And there's some great sort of illustrations that I see on LinkedIn and other places. I think Liz Foslin does loads of these, that you see people on a staircase and you see them and you see the staircase ahead of you and all the steps you've still got to climb to achieve your goal. But you forget how far you've come and all the things you've already achieved. And so that might be another way of looking at it, or you can almost reverse build the model to say, like, this is where I am now, but let's look back at all the challenges over the last year that I've got past. And so actually there's a positive aspect to this as well, not just thinking of all the negative things that are going forward.
That is such a good example. I think most times we are just forward facing, which is not bad because we want to achieve our goals, but we should not forget to just reflect on how far we've come. And maybe if we even see what we did when we experienced those challenges, it will prepare us for the ones ahead. Finally, let's look into the future. How do you see this practice evolving, right? Of trying to visualize things in a playful, serious manner. How do you see this evolving?
Yeah. So I want more and more people to be able to sort of firstly experience this. So sort of try and find a sort of an introduction to Lego Serious Play session. There's some that happen online. There's sort of some that happen in person. And then I want sort of facilitators. And again, this isn't sort of IT specific. This can be used in HR and finance and schools and sort of anywhere. I know sort of there are Lego Serious Play facilitators that use this in prisons. They use it for sustainability. Wherever there's a complex problem that you want to try and solve and get through, you can use this sort of tool and technique to do it. And sort of the more people that experience it, the more widely it's going to be used and be taken sort of seriously as a serious tool for serious change. And that's what I'd love to achieve. And then obviously help train more facilitators in this so they can go out and use it, not necessarily on a daily basis when it's right to use it, but it should be a tool in every facilitator's toolbox.
Great. And if people want to get started, what will you recommend? Where can they start with learning about this practice?
Yeah, so obviously there's information on the Lego website that you can go to. There are a number of different trainers of sort of Lego Serious Play sort of across the globe. So you'll be able to find those. Obviously, people are welcome to come to me and ask questions as well. So I'm always happy to talk Lego and Lego Serious Play. So yeah, you sort of drop me a line. I'm happy to answer questions and help direct people to the right place for them.
Great, thanks. And we'll share your link in when we release the episode so that people can reach out. Hey, do reach out to Robin and learn. For me, I was intrigued when you shared this with me, to be honest, and it's just a very effective way, even as a coach and a facilitator. Yeah, so I'm already thinking towards that line to add this to my toolkit. So thank you so much for sharing. Now let's talk you. How do you play besides using Lego as we wrap up this episode? So I always ask my guests, how do you relax? Lego is not part of your job. Besides that, how do you relax?
See, that's the thing. Well, in my house, there are 4 types of Lego. You've got sort of my
Okay.
daughter's Lego, my son's Lego, my Lego, and work Lego. So sort of Lego does play a big part. Yeah, sort of. My son's got to that age now. He's sort of got regular football matches sort of every Sunday. So help coach his team. So that takes up a lot of the weekend now. Lego's really good for sort of that mindfulness and things. Yeah, I think that's always going to play a big part in my life now.
And maybe your prediction for the Premier League this season. Who is going to win? What's your prediction?
I'm sure Liverpool are going to retain the.
I don't think Arteta will be happy with that prediction, but let's see how it goes.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if Arsenal can get to 30 years without winning it and sort of see what happens then.
Shots fired. Thank you so much, Robin. It's been a pleasure having you on this and just sharing your practice and how people can use Lego to actually design their life. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, please go to his page, follow him on LinkedIn. Is there any other platform besides LinkedIn you're quite active?
I'm trying to put more things on sort of Instagram and TikTok, but LinkedIn's the main place at the moment. But yeah, I'll be opening it up further and wider, sort of probably more next year.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for our viewers, enjoy the rest of your day and see you in the next episode. Bye for now.